close to a final agreement, the plaintiff and her lawyer from Houston filed a case in Texas publicly accusing my client of lies and willful, harmful lies. She knows, 100% knows, and the evidence will show that she knew that this was entirely consensual. So we were of the belief on our side that we had an agreement without any warning. Not even the mediator, who is a retired judge, was given a warning out of courtesy. This case was filed and the public charges went throughout the media before we even knew.
And I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine. That video should actually be 10 minutes or so. Hey, Tony, instead of releasing your edit, put the whole video out.
Also says the Hall of Famer offered his accuser at least $10 million in mediation before the lawsuit was filed.
Shannon Sharpe's willingness to pay is not an admission of anything that he did wrong. It was a willingness to pay for the protection of his family and himself.
Despite the...
All right, what's up with the YouTube fam? I'm back again with another video, right? So look, I'm pretty sure that a lot of y'all have been seeing what's going on with Shannon Sharpe in the media. It's been floating around for the past 2 days. I was gonna jump on it as soon as it happened, but I said, you know what, I'm gonna do what I normally do, just sit back, wait and chill and wait for more information to come out. And I'm glad I did, because now I have the lawyer speaking. I have, you know, different things and more facts about what's going on in the whole situation with him and the young lady. Her name is allegedly Gabriella Zuniga. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. I'm not for sure. But, you know, basically they're stating that she's an OnlyFans model. She does role playing and things like that, right? So some of the text messages have leaked, and I'm pretty sure some of y'all have seen those. And if you have, that's good for you. But this is for those who haven't. I just want to hear my take on everything. So basically, the text messages came out between him and her, and she was basically insinuating that she wanted some type of foreplay. Now, for some people, they might find it, you know, real lascivious, or they're not into that. But different people have different kinks in the bedroom. I just feel like that you got to be careful with everything that you're doing, especially when you are a person with status and you are coming into some money. Now, what's so crazy about everything is Shannon Sharpe was alleged to be in the works of doing a $100 million podcast deal, if I'm not mistaken, but it's some type of deal pertaining to media, right? And this has all been in the public's eye for the past couple of days. So as soon as this is announced, the week later, she comes out with this to basically do whatever she's trying to do. Now, I'm not here to victim shame or victim blame or anything like that, but I am going to give my 100% honest take on this. I feel like that she's just simply doing this for the money. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, if you have been, you know, done some harm to by someone, you're definitely entitled to some money. I just feel like some people should do the criminal part if you're going to do the part where it comes to you making some money off a situation. You know what I'm saying? But hey, people do different things for different reasons, so it is what it is. Like I said before, I'm not here to victim shame or victim blame, but I am going to keep it all the way 100. And everything I'm saying in this video is all allegedly from the beginning to the end. But basically, you know, in some of the text messages, she was stating that she wanted to be, you know, abused, right? She wanted to get some stuff done to her. Now, women are into things like that. Men are too, you know. Not everybody, you know. I shouldn't have to break it all the way down. Hey, we grown here. But people are into certain things. I just feel like when you do kinks with different people, you got to be careful and get some written documentations and things like that, because you'll never know what the hell will happen to you. You feel me? People got all type of ulterior motives set up every damn day. Now, what's so crazy about the whole situation is Shannon Sharpe allegedly tried to do a NDA, a non-disclosure agreement with the girl, and she refused to do it. This a red flag right there. In my personal opinion, I feel like that if I'm a person of status, hell, even if you ain't really got no status, you can do the same damn thing. But especially if you do have some type of status and, you know, a lot of things going for yourself, and you're dealing with somebody who's not equally yoked in the financial department, you definitely should be able to deal with people and get the NDA, you know, signed. But people also feel like, why the hell you want to do this? What you trying to do? You know what I'm saying? But I feel like that if she knew him and knew what he had going on, she knew what was up with him. but she didn't choose to sign it, and I feel like that's where he should have left her ass alone. Now she's gonna put on that facade like he was just after her, he was chasing her, which he probably did want to holler at her and things like that. But as far as like hounding her down the way that she's putting it, I don't believe that's true. So also in some of the messages, she was telling him that she wanted to be tied up and different things like that. Now, like I said before, people have their kinks. Some people do tell you that when I say no, keep going and things like that. I don't know if she told him no, but she's stating that she did. Some people are into that type of shit. But I also feel like there should be some damn, there should be some written consent forms, and you should record things like this too. That's just my personal opinion. If we're gonna get kinky, we gotta be for sure too. But overall, she's blackmailing him in my personal opinion. Now, as far as if he's done something to her, like I said before, she definitely deserves justice if that's true. But I feel like this is a money grab. She also was stating that they were in a relationship. So basically, she was getting mad, according to what the documents say. She was getting mad about him moving a certain way, doing certain things. And I think that live that he got, accused of doing on purpose or on accident, however you want to do it. I ain't here to argue with nobody about that. She talked about that. So with her speaking on that, it lets you know right there she was upset. So you never know where it went from there. But I do have him speaking to her. This is an alleged video. It hasn't been confirmed or denied. Some people say it's confirmed. I actually heard somebody say that, but everything pertaining to voices can't be verified. I need to see these people and hear it come out their damn mouth. So, but these are the damn calls and different things like this. So let's go ahead and move forward into all of this. And this is him actually speaking too about the whole situation. Let's go.
Quarterly colleagues, I want to speak to you directly and from the heart. This is a shakedown. I'm going to be open, transparent, and defend myself because this isn't right. This is all being orchestrated by Tony Busby, who has targeted Jay-Z. Tony Busby targets black men, and I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of a sex tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine. That video should actually be 10 minutes or so. Hey Tony, instead of releasing your edit, put the whole video out. I don't have it, or I would myself. You know what happened, and you're trying to manipulate the media. The encounter in question took place during the day at her invitation, and now that appears to be a deliberate setup, coordinated by Gabby, also known as Carly on OnlyFans. Gabby and Tony Busby want $50 million. What they're getting is sued for defamation and trying to take me down. My career is all about real talk and honesty. I know my family and fans know exactly what this is about. And I'm going to be out there telling you whatever I need to say, just like I always do. I love all you guys.
Okay, now look, I'm going to read some of the text messages real quick. Now, these are just some of them, and these are all alleged. I got to put that out there too. But they are basically saying, let me see. One of the messages that she sent him said, I want you to tie me up like this in a ABUSE me, daddy. And she sent the picture with some weirdo shit going on down there. You know what I'm saying? Okay. She said, I want to be abused, daddy. Right? She said, I want like some hardcore BDSM action though. So she's saying that's what she's into to a certain extent. But no does mean no, and stop does mean stop. So if that was said, then you have to do that, right? But we don't know if that's really the actual case in this situation. Okay, so the other messages say right here, but I cried when you left because I begged you to put on a condom and not to put it in my, and you didn't listen. She said, I don't care what our history is. No means no, Shannon. IDK how to process this. He said, can I call you later? That's what the text messages are alleging. Now, he didn't confirm or deny that. Now, with text messages, people can address you about certain stuff too. And it can also be a finesse. You know what I'm saying? So if that did happen, he definitely should, pay compensation for that. But I don't know if that's true or not. Now, this is the lawyer speaking about, one of the legal representation speaking about everything that's going on pertaining to them and the young lady. Let's go.
Well,
this is him and her talking right here first.
I don't know. Anything I say, you're just gonna get mad at, and you're just gonna hang up on me. So I feel like
I'm not going to hang up on you. Here's what it is.
What does that even mean?
Nothing yet. You want to be a dick to me now, so.
I don't want to be. Don't manipulate me.
Oh, Lord have mercy. If you say that one more time, I'm going to choke the shit out of you when I see you.
They use that against them too. This call right here.
Thank you.
Okay. Well,
she ain't gonna talk. She shut the hell up, did she?
I don't.
You know what?
Well, I don't want to be choked.
Yes, you do. I don't think you have a choice in the matter.
Did you and Shannon offer?
Now that sounded crazy right there, but they can be their dynamic in their relationship, and it can be used to manipulate a situation. Now, like I keep on saying, and I'm going to continue saying that if he did do anything that she's alleging, he needs to be, held accountable for that. I just feel like everything from the beginning to the end was all just a setup. And I see a lot of women out there saying, well, he like white women and this and this and that. I ain't here to do all the race shit right now. You know what I'm saying? If that's what he like, that's what he like. Now, if he said something against black women, then there's an issue. But I ain't heard him say that. If y'all heard something, then that's y'all. But I haven't heard that. I just feel like, kicking people out there down, if they're honest and not lying about whatever the hell is going on, then I don't feel like people should do that. But it's just a bandwagon with everything. People hate you just because everybody is saying some shit. It's just how shit be. Well, let's get back into it. This is the lawyer right here, though.
About these accusations.
Yes, there was a settlement offer made by Mr. Sharpe. I will only generally say to you that it was in the tens of millions of dollars demanded by the plaintiff in return for her silence. That's under any definition commonly understood. That is blackmail. And Mr. Sharpe was willing to pay an amount in the tens of millions of dollars, but no final agreement could be reached. And we thought we were still in the middle of discussions when, without warning, the mediator, who's a retired judge, ourselves as lawyers, without any prior warning, still thinking that we were close to a final agreement, the plaintiff and her lawyer from Houston filed a case in Texas publicly accusing my client of lies and willful, harmful lies by using the rape word when it was she knows, 100% knows, and the evidence will show that she knew that this was entirely consensual. So we were of the belief on our side that we had an agreement without any warning. Not even the mediator, who was a retired judge, was given a warning out of courtesy. This case was filed and the public charges went throughout the media before we even knew that the discussions were over and the case had been filed.
Mr. Davis, last Friday, Front Office Sports reported Mr. Sharpe was in line for a $100 million deal for his podcast. On Sunday, the lawsuit was filed. Is there a timing issue here?
This is one of those two facts line up one after the other where everyone can draw their own reasonable inference. So I have a reasonable inference. It's my reasonable inference. Others might disagree that they're very related, that this plaintiff was looking for money. What she does on OnlyFans was for money in role-playing and virtual fantasy with men who pay her. At the end of the relationship, it's not known yet, but it is a fact that the plaintiff started to charge Mr. Sharpe money, so the relationship became transactional.
So that mean the way that they're saying it, well, I'm not gonna say it mean it because we don't know, but they're trying to say that he was buying it at some point in time. You feel me? And I was reading the comments. If y'all wonder what the hell I'm doing on my phone, so some of the comments are just basically stating that they wouldn't pay if they were or not guilty. And I understand where y'all coming from. Me personally, I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. If I ain't did nothing, I'm not gonna want to pay nobody for shit. But we don't know how it feels to be in certain people's shoes and stuff like that. You feel me? But we gonna take it there. If I got an issue with somebody like this right here, bro, we going all the way out, because I refuse to let my child even fathom me. You know what I'm saying? Could have potentially doing some shit like this. You feel me? But I can understand where he coming from. He got a lot of brand deals, offers, and stuff like that. Podcast deal probably in the works and stuff like that. You can mess up a big bag for him if it's not completed, right? So, you know, hell yeah, what's 10 million to 150 million? You feel me? I'll go ahead and give you that, and we probably can work something out for this being some type of tax write-off somewhere down the line. You feel me? People know how to organize certain shit a certain way to make stuff right. So I can get where this probably would come from, to go ahead and get her on out the damn way. But you gotta stop thinking with you feel me? Thinking with your private parts, and start analyzing these people before you start dealing with them. But at the same time, you can be dealing with a whoop in sheep's clothing all the damn time and never know it, and then they show you at the end of the day who they really are. But let's get back into it. That's just my thoughts on it. I ain't finna pay your ass for some shit like this. I'm just not. My reputation is gonna have to be messed up a little bit until we can clear the air. But paying you for some shit like this, hell no. Let's get back into it.
This is who she is by the facts. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just describing two facts: that she charged him money or asked for money. She's on OnlyFans and charges people money to do role playing, and that for that reason, I'm going to let the inference be decided by everybody that her knowledge that Mr. Sharpe was about to receive a very lucrative contract based upon his talent and his abilities, and he's extremely capable on television and very knowledgeable, not only as a great former professional athlete, but I believe as a very credible and likable television presentation, that he has great value in his podcast and his positions on television. She knew that, took advantage of it, and I have described this in my opinion, it's my opinion only, that this is classic definition of blackmail, especially when you know the party you're blackmailing is about to be making a lot of money. In my opinion, that gives the greatest leverage to a blackmailer, and I believe there's a reasonable inference that one led to the other. Others might disagree. I'm sure Mr. Busby would make his own argument that this is not blackmail, and that this is reasonable, and that there's nothing to do with Mr. Sharpe's sudden announcement by somebody else, not by him, about a lucrative contract, had nothing to do with the plaintiff suddenly deciding to break off negotiation after she was offered tens of millions of dollars, and suddenly to file a lawsuit. And why she did that and why her lawyer did that is up to them to explain.
The next question is coming from Edward Lewis from TMZ. I just want to be clear, Mr. Sharpe did make his accuser an offer in the tens of millions of dollars range, correct?
In the multiple of 10, that's all I'm willing to say at this point. But yes, the answer is yes, in multiples of 10 million, more than 10 million. I'd like to condition my last answer as I was not in the room for the mediation effort. It is possible it is only 10 million as the last offer. So I'll at least say at least 10 million, subject to my confirming whether there were any numbers exchanged higher than 10 million. So let me correct what I said, that it's at least a $10 million offer that had been made and that they walked away from.
This is a shakedown.
Facing and sexual assault accusations, tonight Shannon Sharpe is not backing down.
I'm going to be open, transparent, and defend myself because this isn't right.
Today, the former NFL star turned podcaster posting this video statement in response to a Nevada civil lawsuit filed by a woman who says her consensual relationship with Sharpe eventually led to multiple assaults. The lawsuit also accuses Sharpe of secretly recording encounters without her consent. The plaintiff, listed as Jane Doe, is represented by attorney Tony Busby, who has represented accusers in several high-profile assault cases, and who Sharpe called out by name.
Tony Busby targets black men, and I believe he's going to release a 30-second clip of a tape that tries to make me look guilty and play into every stereotype you could possibly imagine.
Now, when he say that, they let you know right there that the little tape got some shit going on there, and they're throwing cat across the room. He, you know what I'm saying, doing all type of different stuff. I just feel like, and it's alleged, you know what I'm saying? That's what I mean, when he say it can be anything that you can imagine, any type of stereotype that you can imagine, that's simply just based off of what the BDSM stuff be, you know what I'm saying, revolving around. Y'all know what I'm talking about. People want to do all type of stuff. They literally throw cat across the room. You know what I'm saying? Paddles, different things like that. Y'all know how I go. And if you don't know what that is, please just look it up. Please don't put the description in the comments. Let people go look that up. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm pretty sure probably with some, you know, some aggressive foreplay going on. People like that though. You know, that's why I said this stuff got to be consensual. Y'all got to have this text out. Hey, what we finna do? Or what do you want me to do exactly? You know what I'm saying? Because if you leaving with marks and stuff like that, people can easily just go home, take pictures, and show this and make it look like that. You feel me? Let's get back into this.
That video should actually be 10 minutes or so. Hey Tony, instead of releasing your edit, put the whole video out. I don't have it, or I would myself.
Also new today, Jane Doe's attorney releasing an audio clip alleging it shows Sharpe threatening the plaintiff.
The one I let y'all hear about that.
Here's what it is.
The plaintiff says, "Don't manipulate me." Then Sharpe allegedly responds,
Oh, Lord have mercy. If you say that one more time, I'm going to choke the out of you when I see you.
NBC News has not independently verified the audio's authenticity. It's also not clear if this excerpt was part of a longer conversation. We asked Shannon Sharpe's attorney about the recording late today.
He is acknowledging this is a recording of him, but that it's being taken out of context.
But my lawyers are telling, the legal team is telling me that we can't authenticate it if he said that, and he's not denying it. This is his statement that he did not mean it. It was in the heat of the moment, in the middle of an argument.
Sharpe's attorney Lanny Davis also says the Hall of Famer offered his accuser at least $10 million in mediation before the lawsuit was filed.
Shannon Sharpe's willingness to pay is not an admission of anything that he did wrong. It was a willingness to pay for the protection of his family and himself.
Despite the public allegations, Sharpe was talking sports on ESPN this morning.
This is an absolute must-win. LeBron James is going to have to be the LeBron James that we know him to be.
The sports network declining to comment on the lawsuit as Shannon Sharpe offered this promise today.
And I'm going to be out there telling you whatever I need to say, just like I always do.
Jesse Kirsch joins us now from Miami. Jesse, Sharpe is planning now to take legal action on his own, correct?
That's right, Ellison. Sharpe's attorney says his client's accuser is making, quote, a maliciously false claim, and Sharpe's attorney is promising a lawsuit to, quote, hold her accountable. I also asked Sharpe's attorney if the former football star would proceed with legal action if the accuser were to drop her lawsuit, and Sharpe's attorney says he does not know what Sharpe would do in that scenario, but says his recommendation would be to move forward with legal action. Ellison?
Now I feel like that in a situation like this, I'm definitely gonna sue you back, but at the same time, you know, when it's easy to say what you'll do, but when you're in those shoes, you might just be like, man, if I can just throw this shit under the rug and go on, I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying? But some of the things that people aren't really paying attention to is that they were in a so-called relationship. And women get very, very spiteful. Men do too as well. People get spiteful. That's what I'm trying to say. If they can't get their way. People are so used to having you a certain way. When you get some standards about yourself or some type of boundaries and shit like that, they can't fathom that. And they really want to get mad and upset and start tripping out. And that could be the case right here too. But people not finna keep on allowing people to do this Jane Doe stuff. I see that a lot of these lawyers are literally making people show themselves. You feel me? They gotta show who the hell they are. And I feel like that's only right, because if you putting this type of light on someone, because they're gonna have a stain on their name regardless of it getting dropped or not. So with them having that stain on their name, you definitely should be out here in the public's eye letting people know who the hell your ass is. Let's get back into it.
Jesse Kirsch.
Stepped in, the Texas attorney who targeted Sean Diddy Combs with dozens of civil lawsuits on behalf of John and Jane Doe's allegedly victimized by the music mogul, has a new target in his sights. NFL legend Shannon Sharpe. A brand new lawsuit was just filed in Nevada claiming Sharpe was manipulative and eventually assaulted a Jane Doe, with the latest claims allegedly happening as recently as January. We got our hands on the filing, and we're going to break down everything you need to know. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Tony Busby's back. The lawyer who went after Sean Combs, Jay-Z, we'll talk about that. Well, he is still swinging at high-profile men that he claims are abused. This time he's calling out Shannon Sharpe, the 56-year-old NFL superstar turned podcaster and commentator. Brand new lawsuit filed against Shannon Sharpe. We got a copy of it right here. It was filed out in Nevada. We're going to go over it. But Shannon Sharpe, because you don't know who he is, he played 14 seasons in the NFL with the Denver Broncos, the Baltimore Ravens. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2011. After he retired, he spent time as a sports commentator and analyst. You might remember that he co-hosted Skip and Shannon, Undisputed, with Skip Bayless from 2016 to 2023. Bayless and his then employer, by the way, Fox Sports, they faced their own accusations of misconduct in a separate filing from earlier this year. We covered it here on Sidebar as well. Now, Sharpe is part of the sports podcast space. He hosts two shows, Club Shay Shay and Nightcap. In fact, you remember his interview with comedian Cat Williams in January 2024 on Club Shay Shay? That helped spark, I should say, a renewed interest in Sean Diddy Combs and his alleged bad behavior at his infamous parties. Got a lot of people talking.
Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did.
But now it's Shannon Sharpe who's in the spotlight for his own accusations of abuse. Because on Monday morning, Texas attorney Tony Busby announced on his Instagram that he'd filed a $50 million lawsuit in Nevada court against Sharpe. On Instagram, he wrote in part, "I'm extremely proud to represent Jane Doe. It takes a great deal of courage to stand up against those with power, fame, and money. I look forward to pressing this case in court." So, we're going to go over this, but I want to first bring in John Clune, civil attorney who litigates on behalf of survivors of abuse and sexual. John, so good to have you. And again, this is kind of breaking news. I didn't have an opportunity to fully go through this lawsuit, so you and I are going to break this down in basically real time. When we saw this early this morning, it was a shock to us. What was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction was the timing of it, to be honest. Before I read the lawsuit, just the timing of it for it to be filed, on Easter Sunday, that struck me as an unusual move. But then as I went through the lawsuit, the allegations are pretty just. We don't know if they're true or not, but what's written in the complaint is pretty terrible stuff.
John, I have to say, to go after Shannon Sharpe, if you're Tony Busby, after what just happened with Jay-Z, remember, he filed that lawsuit on behalf of a Jane Doe, a woman who claimed that she was 13 years old back in 2000 and was sexually assaulted by Jay-Z. That lawsuit was dropped, and it came after serious questions of her story and credibility surfaced, both by reporting by NBC News and evidence that was presented by Jay-Z's side. Jay-Z ended up suing this woman, suing Tony Busby as well. So now to go after Shannon Sharpe, another high-profile figure, does that tell you that he feels he has the evidence in this case?
Well, Mr. Busby is a pretty bold mover in this space. I mean, he seems to not be, shy about his decision making. So it could mean that he's got the goods in this particular case, or it could just be, kind of par for the course, and this is how he, handles his high-profile cases.
But and me and I know, you can't just file a frivolous lawsuit. You can't file a lawsuit to harass somebody. You have to believe the law, the facts. There's, there has to be some semblance of facts that you put forward in a complaint that pass a motion to dismiss test. So he has to feel that he might not have all the evidence right now, but he has to feel confident in Jane Doe's account, right? Otherwise, he'd be breaking ethics rules.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with these accounts, like in a assault, just a Jane Doe against an individual, is it's really hard to get rid of that case on a motion to dismiss, or even down the road on a motion for summary judgment. Because if you have your client who's saying, "This is what happened to me," and then in this case, say Mr. Sharpe says, "No, that's not what happened, it was very different," that's really a trial issue. That's not something a judge is really going to dismiss on motion. So Other types of cases that have more subtle elements to them maybe can get dismissed on motion, but this kind of thing is really hard for a defendant to get rid of short of trial.
By the way, before we get into the context of the suit, Jane Doe, so filing under Jane Doe, a pseudonym, typically speaking, how likely is it that she will be able to continue moving forward in this litigation anonymously? I know in the Sean Combs case, several courts have said that the Jane Does and possibly even the John Does have had to come forward and reveal their identities. Talk to me about what the interest, the different factors the court will look at, and whether or not Jane Doe would be able to proceed anonymously.
Yeah, I'd say at best it's 50-50 that she's able to proceed in that fashion. I mean, generally speaking, there's a strong preference in the courts for transparency and open proceedings. That includes using your real name in the lawsuit. If you can convince a court that there's a public interest in keeping her name from the public, which can be something like safety issues, it can be the shame of the situation, if it's the age of the person, quite often if they're underage, you're much more likely to be able to keep the pseudonym. But in this kind of a case where it's one adult against another, unless there's any particular safety harms, it's not an easy thing to be able to convince a judge to keep it as a Jane Doe.
Now, they've been doing it in the past and stuff like that, but ultimately they getting tired of this shit, in my personal opinion. They want to start exposing these liars and stuff like that, the people who are liars. I can't say she's a liar until everything comes out in the open, but I do got my thoughts and opinions on this whole situation. But to have somebody out here being able to say this and that about you, and they go all over the world, and the person who's saying it can't even be known and shown, it's crazy to me, in my personal opinion. Now, safety does play a major part, but if they're not literally doing anything to you, then yeah. But they're saying that he came to her house or something like that without knowledge and without her knowledge or acknowledgement and different shit like that. We don't know how true that is, but they can use some of that against him in this situation. It's just a messy thing, man. You gotta be careful who you're dealing with, and always remember that it can happen to you. You gotta be careful, man, for real. Meeting new people and dealing with them, stuff like that, it just be too much these days, bro. It's best just to deal with somebody that you're comfortable with and going on with your life. And if you do meet somebody new, they need to do some type of NDA. Y'all need to come to some mutual agreements and make sure you have a full text thread of every goddamn thing. And if they want to do some kinky shit, tell them to send a video. You know how you put the spoon on your nose? Put a spoon on your nose on this day saying everything that we talking about, you know what I'm saying, with the date somewhere or something. Because moving forward like that ain't good in these days that we are in. Let's get back into the video.
Yeah, and I've seen the argument put forward by the judge. Basically, if you are choosing to file a lawsuit and you are putting this celebrity in the spotlight, the defendant has a right to defend himself, to investigate your claims, to investigate you. You're the one who chose to file the lawsuit and put your credibility at issue, so you should have to be able to proceed with your name and your identity being exposed. But again, there are certain factors to consider. And by the way, when we talk about Tony Buzbee, let's not forget, he filed numerous lawsuits on behalf of others against Sean Combs. That's how his name has really come up in the news in the past several years, right? He held that press conference where he said that he was representing so many dozens and dozens of accusers against Sean Combs. So now I want to dig into what this lawsuit has to say. So Tony Buzbee, let me just say this, known for his flamboyant speech in his civil filings. And in this one doesn't appear to be any exception, because it begins, a woman can say yes to consensual relations with a man 99 times. But when she says no, even once, that no means no. Defendant Shannon Sharpe, a man who's accustomed to getting what he wants, completely fails to understand this basic concept. After many months of manipulating and controlling plaintiff, a woman more than 30 years younger than he, and repeatedly threatening to choke and slap her, Sharpe refused to accept the answer no and plaintiff, despite her sobbing and repeated screams of no. According to the complaint, Jane Doe worked out at this same gym as Shannon Sharpe in Los Angeles, and she was 19 at the time. This is what she claims. And she claims that he had been watching her during her workouts and finally introduced himself, insisting that she give him her number. And the filing says that Jane Doe found Sharpe, quote, physically intimidating. The lawsuit reads, over the next couple of weeks, Sharpe incessantly pursued plaintiff. He constantly approached her at the gym and attempted to contact her frequently with phone calls and text messages asking to meet up. unwilling to take no for an answer. Eventually, plaintiff gave in and agreed to meet with Sharpe outside of the gym. However, before doing so, Sharpe demanded that Doe sign a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA, something plaintiff found a bit concerning. She wondered why Sharpe was so insistent on her signing an NDA. She refused. Despite his repeated efforts to get her to sign, she refused time and again. Eventually, he dropped the issue and invited her to his house. Now, the lawsuit claims that this relationship between Sharpe and Jane Doe, again more than 30 years his junior, was consensual, but it was rocky. She said he'd insisted they were exclusive, but then was caught multiple times lying about his whereabouts and who he was seeing. According to the filing, quote, by October 2024, Sharpe's behavior had grown progressively worse beyond anything plaintiff had experienced with him before. At this point, he was insistent upon recording their sexual activities, sometimes without her knowledge. Sharpe was also sharing the videos with others without her permission or knowledge. Sharpe would repeatedly tell Doe that he wanted to do to her things that would make no other man want her. By this point, Sharpe was no longer able to credibly maintain the relationship was exclusive. He had at this point accidentally or purposely, to advance his career, went live on Instagram while having sex with another woman. Sharpe flew into fits of anger when plaintiff noted his infidelity to the relationship or called him out about his extraneous activities. What had once become manipulation, control, and intimidation now became something far more dangerous and sinister. Sharpe even figured out how to get into Doe's apartment complex without her permission. Sharpe made it clear that what Doe wanted was of no moment, that Sharpe would get what he wanted when he wanted it. In October 2024, Shannon Sharpe violently assaulted an plaintiff 2 different times in Las Vegas, Nevada, blatantly ignoring her request for him to stop. He did it again in January. Now, before I get into what the claims for relief are here, first, John, your thoughts on that narrative put forward by Jane Doe?
Yeah, I mean, it's deliberately narrative. There's nothing inherently wrong with going into that level of detail in these types of cases to kind of get the court's attention on how serious this is. But it's probably on the more side of the scale in terms of these types of pleadings.
If there are recordings, how would she be able to get access to them, and how could that help her case?
Well, when she gets into civil discovery, she can demand copies of those. Whether they exist or ever existed, we don't know. But if they do exist, he'll be required to produce those. I mean, those could be significant. I mean, if you have videotapes of either non-consensual behavior or behavior that regardless of how it appears, looks like there's surreptitious recordings of somebody. I mean, that's definitely something that would look really bad for any defendant.
Is it problematic for her that they were in a relationship? You know, he talks about in the beginning of the lawsuit, a woman could say yes 99 times. If she says no once and you continue on, that's assault. That's do you believe that them being in a consensual relationship for a long period of time or a period of time, do you believe that, according to her claims, even after being asked to sign an NDA, she nonetheless engaged in a relationship with him? Do you think that hurts her credibility?
I don't think it hurts her credibility. I think it's something that a defendant can use to their advantage to show the number of times that there was consensual behavior as a suggestion that maybe these instances are being manipulated for the purpose of financial gain. So it's not quite as bright line as if though there had been never contact between the two of them. But maybe if this was 25 years ago, it'd be more of a problem. I think these days jurors have an understanding that people in intimate relationships can also be victims of violence. So I wouldn't call it a big problem, but it's something that could be manipulated.
I'm just reading this this January 2025 alleged sexual assault. It's pretty disgusting. I mean, she basically says that she was begging for him to stop. He became more aggressive. He wouldn't wear protection, and that this sexual assault lasted roughly 10 minutes. I'm not going to get into the details of it. How does she prove that? Is it just her testimony? Is it that if she told anybody, let's say she didn't tell anybody, didn't tell authorities, is it just her testimony against his? I mean, will that be the key of it, her taking the stand and explaining this happened to her?
That's going to be the center of it for the both of them. They both have the ability to describe what did or didn't happen, and it's going to be believability. Like you said, if she did tell somebody, that's helpful. If she sought any sort of medical treatment, that's also helpful. But it's also possible that neither of those things happen. It just becomes one person's word against another.
So she is suing for assault, battery, sexual battery, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. I imagine there's probably no statute of limitations issue since this is alleged to have occurred in 2023. Are these relatively broad causes of action, specific causes of action? Are they particularized in any way? Talk to me about what you believe about these causes of action that she's suing under.
I mean, that matches the facts of what she's alleged. I think they're relatively specific to the information that's in the complaint. So, that's the kind of collection of claims I would expect any attorney to bring, given those facts that they laid out in the complaint.
And the defense would be that either this didn't happen or it was consensual, right?
Right. That's pretty much the two options. Most of the time these days, because of things like, DNA or other ways to corroborate some sort of activity, consent becomes the number one defense. So that's what we see most of the time.
Remember when I said this was a $50 million lawsuit? So I want to read you what she's suing for. General damages in the sum of excess of $10 million, special damages in the sum of excess $10 million, punitive damages $20 million, statutory penalties $10 million. How do that feels like a lot of money. I mean, now that you also wonder, how do you put a price on if this really did happen? How do you put a price on assault? But at the same time, $50 million for general, special, punitive, statutory penalties. Talk to us about what those mean and whether or not those would be appropriate in a situation like this.
Yeah, so the general damages are going to be her emotional distress damages. So what's the general impact to her now and kind of for the years to come as a result of going through this? If this happened, and I want to underscore, we don't know if this happened, but if this happened, $10 million does not seem to me like an excessive amount of emotional distress damages. I mean, this is something that would stay with somebody for the rest of their life and be a significant struggle at various points in their life. The special damages are going to be economic losses. Those can be harder to establish. I mean, you'd have to use an economist to try to talk about how this is going to impact somebody's future career and their therapy, psychiatry, that sort of thing. It might be difficult to get up to $10 million for the special damages. The punitive damages, $20 million, those are damages that are just designed to punish somebody for their conduct. And again, if what has been outlined in the complaint is accurate, I could see a jury awarding that sum. We talked about a case the other day where there's $1.7 billion that was awarded for against one individual. That was for 40 women, but still was about $42 million per plaintiff. So the punitive damage figure is high. I mean, these are all really high numbers, but they're not. I don't think they're inappropriate in terms of what they have in the complaint. I'm not sure what the statutory penalties are, what they're referring to. That's probably something that's specific to Nevada law.
Interesting. Well, actually, talking about other lawsuits, by the way, in this filing, in Busby's filing, it also mentions a lawsuit against Shannon Sharpe out of New York. This one was filed by a woman named Michelle Evans, who's representing herself. She filed her complaint in New York State Court in December 2023. The case is still ongoing. She's suing for defamation, libel, slander, slander of a woman, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent infliction of emotional distress, seeking at least $14 million in damages. And Evans makes many of the same claims against Sharpe that Jane Doe does, including that she tried to distance herself from him after learning he was having sexual relations with other women, but that he became enraged and attacked her. In fact, her lawsuit contains an alleged quote from Shannon Sharpe that matches, I will say, almost word for word, a line in Jane Doe's complaint. So Evans' lawsuit says that Sharpe told her during a assault that, quote, he would make it so no other man would want me. Again, you just heard that. Jane Doe's lawsuit reads, Sharpe would repeatedly tell Doe that he wanted to do to her things that would make no other man want her. And Evans' complaint also states Michelle Evans was subjected to non-consensual encounters, which in itself is a deeply traumatic experience that has resulted in long-term psychological harm, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, severe anxiety, and depression. The trauma is exacerbated by the public defamatory statements made by Shannon Sharpe, which have led to public humiliation, loss of dignity, and a sense of betrayal. And she even provided a chart showing how Sharpe's alleged actions impacted her. According to a sworn affidavit from Sharpe, he denies the allegations that Michelle Evans has laid against him, says it was actually Evans who was manipulative and threatening, says that she was harassing him via text messages and phone calls. So it makes me wonder, since at the time of this recording, John, we're still like, this is breaking news. We haven't seen a response yet from Shannon Sharpe. Could come out later after we air this. What do you imagine you're going to hear from him or his side?
Well, first of all, I think that they're going to be careful about saying too much right now. They're going to probably strongly deny the allegations and look forward to their day in court and maybe some other strong language. But I expect it to be somewhat generalized and not responding to some of the individual facts of the case. In regards to that other lawsuit, what they're probably going to say is, well, sure, it lines up. Mr. Busby had the opportunity to read this lawsuit before drafting his own, so that's the reason why they match up. So I would expect down the road we may hear something like that from the Sharpe camp.
Yeah, I was wondering. I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. You could say someone could say I accept that both of these accounts are legitimate. Obviously, they would say Shannon Sharpe has a pattern here. He says the same things. He does the same things. Or alternatively, this Jane Doe read that lawsuit and said, "Oh, she claimed that, I'll claim that." You piggyback off of it. Do you think that this is a case that would be advantageous for him to settle? I mean, obviously, we do not know what happened, right? He could say none of this is true. I want to fight. I want to clear my name, go through litigation, expensive. There's an emotional toll. There's a lot of different factors. But if you settle it, what message does that send?
Yeah, it's a tough situation because you don't want to settle it. You don't really want to go to trial on it either. I mean, going to trial in a year and a half and having all of this testimony come out, if it's consistent with what's in this complaint, if somebody feels like they've been wrongfully accused, they want to vindicate themselves, they want to prove their innocence in court. But from a PR standpoint, for somebody who's high profile like Mr. Sharpe, going to trial is going to be a difficult proposition for him. But what's the message of settling it? Maybe after things have calmed down, there might be a space to settle it and say, look, this was a business decision. I still don't believe anything what she's saying, but it was worth it to me to be able to move on with my life. And, and that's the messaging that you can have once the initial media calms down. But whether or not it's something he wants to do or not, we'll have to see.
Could this potentially result in criminal charges?
If she's willing to report criminally, I don't know if she has or if she hasn't, but if she's willing to report, it certainly seems like it'd be within any statute of limitations, which is pretty lengthy to start with. But I don't expect the Clark County authorities to just pick it up and run with it on their own. They're going to need to know that she's reporting and she's willing to go through with a case.
John Clune, thank you so much for coming on. Real time, breaking this down with us real fast. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, Jesse. Thanks.
All right, everybody, that's all.
Well, look, y'all, that's the internet right there so far. But when it hits the fan a little bit more and things come out, I might come back with another update on this whole situation. If y'all want updates from me, then just hit the like button or something like that, and I'll bring them to y'all. But yeah, man, you got to be careful who you're dealing with, and always remember and understand that it can be you too. So make sure that you're on your P's and Q's when you're dealing with people these days. Man, you don't know what the hell nobody on and what their intentions are. So I always stay a step ahead of the game. It's all right to record and keep documentation because you don't know what nobody's on these days. But hey, that's all I got to say so far. So just let me know your thoughts and opinions, and we're going to talk about everything in the comment section. I'll holler at y'all later on another video.